What if your brain is no longer yours? Imagine walking through a marketplace where every voice shouts for your attention. Every stall offers a sweet distraction, and every corner pulls you away from where you were heading. That is your mind today, flooded with notifications, quick entertainment, and artificial rewards. The ancient Stoics faced no smartphones, yet they warned about the same trap, becoming slaves to pleasure. The battlefield has changed, but the danger remains the same. The truth is, your brain has been hijacked by constant dopamine spikes. Each scroll, each ping, each like rewires your reward system, teaching it to crave the shallow instead of the meaningful. Seneca once wrote that nothing is more destructive than scattering your attention. Neuroscience now confirms it. The more scattered your focus, the weaker your self-control becomes. You feel exhausted not because you work too much, but because your brain is addicted to noise. Marcus Aurelius began each morning reminding himself that distractions would try to pull him away from reason. He treated every interruption as a test of character. What if you could do the same, not by retreating from the world, but by rewiring your mind to hunger for clarity instead of chaos? That is where the idea of a dopamine detox, fused with Stoic philosophy, becomes powerful. It is not about deprivation. It is about liberation. Picture your brain as a fortress with its gates wide open. Right now, every distraction walks in freely, carrying away your discipline brick by brick. The Stoics knew that a fortress unguarded is a life ungoverned. Modern science calls it dopamine imbalance. Epictetus would call it slavery to impulses. The result is the same: you no longer command your own mind. But what if you could reset? Imagine silencing the marketplace inside your head, closing the gates and placing guards at the door. Imagine waking up with a mind that no longer chases quick pleasures, but stands firm, calm, and unshakable in its purpose. This is not fantasy. It is a practice, one that the Stoics refined 2,000 years ago and that modern neuroscience now proves effective. Today you will discover how to rebuild your shield, sharpen your sword, and reclaim your mental fortress. You will learn how to reset your dopamine system not with hacks, but with principles that last a lifetime. This is not a temporary detox, it is a new way of living. So as we begin this journey, I want to know, from which country or city are you watching this? Share it in the comments below. Let us map together how far this Stoic reset can travel. Because once you take the first step, you will see that your brain was never broken. It was only waiting for you to lead it back to discipline, clarity, and strength. The hijacked brain. Your brain was not designed for the world you live in today. Thousands of years ago, dopamine was a compass guiding humans toward survival, food, connection, shelter. Now that same compass is hijacked by glowing screens, endless feeds, and notifications engineered to steal your focus. Every time you reach for your phone without thinking, every time you refresh an app hoping for something new, you hand over a piece of your attention. The Stoics would call this slavery, the quiet surrender of your freedom to impulses you no longer control. Seneca once warned that people are frugal with money but wasteful with time, the one resource that can never be regained. Modern neuroscience echoes him. When dopamine is triggered too often, the brain's receptors dull, leaving you restless and unsatisfied. You think you are relaxing when you scroll, but in truth you are feeding the cycle that makes you weaker. You are not resting, you are being drained. Imagine your brain as a once mighty fortress now left unguarded. At first, only small distractions creep through the gates: a message, a headline, a quick video. But soon, the gates are wide open and the army of noise storms inside. Little by little, your discipline collapses. Focus becomes scattered, willpower feels thin, and even the smallest tasks feel overwhelming. You sense the collapse, but you do not know how to stop it. Epictetus would look at this and remind you that no one can enslave your mind without your permission. Yet every dopamine hit you accept without awareness is permission granted. It is not the app, the platform, or the world that rules you, it is the habit of surrendering your attention. The hijacked brain is not a disease of modern times. It is simply the old Stoic warning taking a digital form. Science describes this as reward circuitry gone haywire. Your brain is stuck chasing novelty instead of depth. A like on a post feels urgent, but finishing a meaningful project feels distant. The gap between what brings you quick stimulation and what brings you true fulfillment grows wider every day. The Stoics would say you are living for shadows while abandoning substance. You are trapped in a storm of impulses, and you do not even realize the storm is not natural, it is manufactured. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the things pulling his attention were rarely important. He practiced looking beyond the glitter, beyond the surface, and seeing what really mattered. If he were alive today, he would not simply delete an app. He would train his mind to see through the trick. He would treat every distraction as a test. Do I command my attention, or does it command me? The hijacked brain feels chaotic, but the truth is simple. Your mind becomes what it consumes. If it consumes fragments, it becomes fragmented. If it consumes purpose, it becomes purposeful. Dopamine itself is not the enemy. Losing mastery over it is. You cannot escape dopamine, but you can reclaim the throne and decide what deserves your reward. So let me ask you, have you ever felt that your brain is no longer listening to you? That your focus slips through your fingers like water? Share your answer below. Because in the next part, you will see that the Stoics already designed a defense system against this invasion, a shield strong enough to protect your mind from being hijacked. The Stoic Shield. The Stoics knew that life would always throw distractions at them. They did not wait for peace and silence to appear. They built an inner shield strong enough to withstand the noise of the world. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by politics, war, and constant demands, found clarity every morning by writing in his journal. Each line was not for others to read, but for himself to guard his thoughts. His words were his shield, protecting him from being carried away by impulses. A shield is not about hiding. It is about filtering. Think of your mind as a gatekeeper. Without a shield, everything passes through. Gossip, anger, trivial news, endless scrolling. With a shield, you decide what enters and what bounces off. This is the essence of a dopamine detox. It is not about denying yourself pleasure. It is about protecting your limited energy from being wasted on empty pursuits. Modern science confirms what Marcus practiced. Studies show that deliberate silence, controlled environments, and mindful journaling reduce overstimulation in the brain. By limiting random dopamine triggers, you give your mind space to reset. Just as a warrior lifts his shield not to run from battle but to move with strength, you lift your shield to face the world with clarity. Seneca said that the greatest wealth is a contented mind, but contentment does not come from drowning in stimulation. It comes from choosing carefully what you allow to touch you. When you practice building your shield, whether by journaling, limiting notifications, or carving out silence, you train your brain to reward depth instead of noise. You stop being a slave to impulses and start becoming a guardian of your own focus. Imagine beginning your day by holding up this shield. You sit in silence for a few minutes, not to escape but to prepare. You remind yourself, as Marcus did, that distractions will try to strike. When the first urge to reach for your phone hits, you recognize it, let it glance off the shield, and return to what matters. Each time you resist, you strengthen the barrier. Each time you choose awareness over impulse, the shield grows thicker. This is not about rejecting technology or pleasure forever. The Stoics did not hate comfort, they simply refused to let comfort control them. In the same way, you do not need to delete every app or run from the world. You need to build a shield strong enough that when the world knocks, you can decide whether to open the door or keep it closed. That choice is freedom. The shield gives you protection, but protection alone is not enough. A warrior cannot win with defense only. He must also strike back with purpose and direction. This is where the Stoics introduced the next essential tool, the sword of clarity, the weapon that transforms your focus from something fragile into something powerful. So let me ask you, have you ever tried to spend a day in silence with no distractions, no noise, just your thoughts? Did it scare you, or did it set you free? Share it below, because once you learn to lift the shield, you are ready to take up the sword of clarity. Defense keeps you safe, but it does not move you forward. The Stoics knew that guarding the mind was only the first step. To live with purpose, you need a weapon, a sharp instrument that cuts through confusion and directs your energy. That weapon is clarity. Epictetus taught that freedom is not found in doing whatever you want, but in disciplining your will to focus on what truly matters. Discipline is the sword that transforms scattered impulses into precise strikes. Modern science agrees. Dopamine is not just about pleasure. It is about motivation and direction. When you let your brain chase shallow rewards, your sword grows dull. But when you deliberately choose a task worth your attention, dopamine becomes fuel, sharpening your focus until the noise fades away. Think of it as reprogramming your reward system, teaching it to crave progress instead of distraction. Your attention is your sword. Wherever you direct it, your life bends. Focus it on trivial things and your days feel empty. Focus it on meaningful goals and your days grow powerful. This is why James Clear insists on systems over goals. The sword must be trained in daily action, not left rusting in vague dreams. Each time you choose depth over noise, you swing the blade with precision. Marcus Aurelius sharpened his sword every morning by deciding who he wanted to be before the world could decide for him. He knew that without clarity, the day would scatter him in 1,000 directions. In the same way, you must begin each day asking, "Where will I strike today?" One chosen task, fully owned, cuts deeper than 100 half-hearted attempts. The sword of clarity is not about doing more, it is about doing less with greater force. Cal Newport calls this deep work, the ability to immerse yourself so fully in a task that time dissolves and your best mind emerges. Each session of deep work is like a sword strike, clean, powerful, unforgettable. This is the antidote to the dullness of constant dopamine grazing. Imagine taking 1 hour each morning, shield in place, sword in hand, striking at the single task that defines your day. No distractions, no noise, just you and the work. That hour will give you more satisfaction than an entire day lost to shallow pleasures, because the mind hungers for depth, not fragments. And when you give it depth, you reclaim mastery over dopamine itself. Yet even the sharpest sword grows dull without maintenance. If you keep striking without reflection, your focus weakens, your edge softens, and your weapon becomes heavy. The Stoics knew this, which is why they developed rituals to sharpen their clarity daily. They treated reflection as the whetstone of the mind. So let me ask you, if you could choose one thing today, just one, to give your full attention without interruption, what would it be? Share it below. Because next, you will discover how to sharpen this sword every single day, until clarity becomes your natural state. Sharpening the sword. A sword, no matter how strong, loses its edge if neglected. The Stoics understood this well. They sharpened their clarity every morning and polished it every night. Marcus Aurelius began his days by reminding himself of the distractions and challenges ahead so that when they arrived, they did not surprise him. In the evening, he would reflect, asking whether he had lived up to his principles. Each reflection was a stroke of the whetstone, keeping his mind sharp and unshaken. Modern neuroscience echoes this practice. When you reflect, your brain rewires itself. It strengthens the circuits linked to focus and weakens those tied to impulse. In other words, reflection is not a soft exercise, it is literal mental training. The simple act of writing down where you succeeded and where you strayed resets your dopamine system. Instead of rewarding mindless scrolling, your brain begins to associate reward with self-awareness and growth. Seneca advised ending the day by questioning himself, what bad habit did you resist? What duty did you fulfill? What opportunity did you miss? These were not punishments. They were calibrations. Just as a warrior sharpens his sword to prepare for the next battle, Seneca sharpened his mind for the next dawn. The Stoics treated each day as practice, each reflection as armor against weakness. In today's world, sharpening your sword means creating rituals that strengthen attention. A morning meditation to set intention, a block of focused work without distractions, an evening journal where you analyze your victories and your slips. These are not rigid rules. They are deliberate strokes on the blade of clarity. Each ritual polishes the edge, making it ready for the next challenge. Imagine walking into tomorrow with a sword that glows from constant sharpening. You know where you slipped today and you adjust. You know where you excelled and you repeat. Over time, this practice creates a mind so sharp that distractions glance off it. You no longer fear impulses because you know how to recalibrate. Like a Stoic warrior, you live with deliberate strength. The beauty of sharpening the sword is that it turns failure into fuel. Every time you lose focus, you gain a lesson. Every evening, you can turn a wasted hour into a sharpened edge by confronting it honestly. Nothing is wasted if reflected upon. The Stoics never expected perfection. They expected practice, and through practice, mastery. But sharpening alone is not enough. A warrior must also choose wisely where he will fight. Many sharpen their swords only to waste them on meaningless battles. If you fight in the wrong places, even the sharpest blade will not save you. You need to know your battlefield. So let me ask you, what is your evening ritual today? Do you sharpen your sword with reflection, or do you end the day scattered? Share it below, because in the next part, you will learn how to choose your battlefield, the very ground where your clarity will either thrive or be ambushed. Choosing your battlefield. Even the sharpest sword and the strongest shield are useless if you step onto the wrong battlefield. The Stoics taught that much of our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from fighting battles that were never ours to begin with. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he could not control the actions of others, only his own response. To him, wisdom was choosing where to direct his strength and where to withhold it. In the same way, if you allow your attention to wander into hostile territory social media traps, endless noise, meaningless arguments, you are fighting unwinnable wars that drain your life. Modern psychology shows that environment shapes behavior more than willpower does. You can carry the sharpest mind, but if your battlefield is filled with constant temptations, you will be ambushed again and again. That is why a dopamine detox is not about quitting life, but about redrawing the map. You rearrange the ground so that your battles are chosen, not imposed. When you control the battlefield, you control the outcome. Picture your phone as a battlefield filled with ambushes. Each notification is a hidden arrow, each algorithm a trap disguised as entertainment. Walking unprepared into this territory guarantees defeat. The Stoic approach would not be to throw away the phone, but to design the terrain so that temptations lose their power. Removing unnecessary apps, disabling notifications, and creating sacred zones of focus are ways of turning hostile ground into neutral ground. Seneca wrote that he who is everywhere is nowhere. The same applies to your digital battlefield. If your attention is spread across dozens of apps, you stand in too many arenas, bleeding energy in fights that do not matter. But if you narrow your field, choosing only the spaces that serve your growth, you concentrate your power. The Stoic warrior fights few battles, but he wins them because he fights where his strength is meaningful. This principle extends beyond technology. Your physical environment is also a battlefield. A cluttered desk invites distraction. A chaotic room invites restless thought. The Stoics valued simplicity not for beauty but for strength. A simple environment reduces ambushes and protects your clarity. By controlling the spaces where you live and work, you place yourself on terrain that favors your discipline instead of testing it endlessly. Cal Newport calls this creating focus-friendly environments. He insists that true concentration is less about heroic self-control and more about removing friction. The battlefield should be designed so that focus flows naturally, not forced. When your environment makes the right action easy and the wrong action hard, you win before the battle begins. This is the silent wisdom of Stoic strategy. Choosing your battlefield means asking one crucial question: where will my energy matter most? Every yes you give to a distraction is a no you give to purpose. Every battle chosen poorly is energy you will never recover. The Stoics knew that life is short and clarity demands focus. You cannot win everywhere. You must choose wisely where to stand. So let me ask you, where is your battlefield today? Is it your workplace, your phone, your own restless mind? Share it below. Because once you know your ground, you can train like the Stoic athlete, conditioning your mind and body to endure and to grow stronger with every challenge. The Stoic athlete. The Stoics often compared life to athletic training. Epictetus reminded his students that if they wanted strength, they had to expect sweat, discipline, and discomfort. Just as the body grows stronger through resistance, the mind grows sharper by enduring challenges with patience. The Stoic athlete does not run from hardship, he uses it as training ground. And this principle is the missing piece of a true dopamine detox. It is not about punishment, it is about conditioning your brain to prefer depth over ease. Modern neuroscience shows that delayed gratification strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for self-control. Each time you resist an impulse, you build mental muscle. Each time you sit with discomfort instead of fleeing from it, you rewire your dopamine system to reward endurance. This is why short challenges, fasting, cold showers, digital fasting are so powerful. They remind your brain that it does not need constant stimulation to feel alive. Seneca praised voluntary discomfort as a way to free yourself from fear. He suggested practicing poverty, eating simple meals, and wearing rough clothing to prove that luxury was not necessary for peace of mind. Today, the modern version is practicing days without screens, hours without constant noise, or mornings without your phone. These exercises are not deprivation. They are training. They teach your brain to crave resilience instead of distraction. Marcus Aurelius saw every obstacle as a chance to train endurance. When others complained of hardship, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." A dopamine detox becomes stronger when you reframe each craving not as an enemy, but as a barbell for the mind. The urge to check your phone becomes the weight you lift. Each resisted impulse is one more repetition in the gym of discipline. James Clear explains that habits compound. A small victory repeated daily becomes a powerful transformation. The Stoic athlete builds strength not by heroic single acts, but by consistent training. You do not become unshakable in 1 week. You become unshakable through thousands of small resistances, each one carving resilience into your brain. The detox is not an event, it is ongoing training. Imagine yourself as an athlete of attention. Each day you step into the arena, not with crowds cheering, but with silence pressing on you. Your challenge is to hold focus when distraction tempts, to embrace discomfort when your brain craves ease. Over time, your endurance grows. What once felt impossible, an hour without your phone, a day without sugar, a night of silence, becomes natural. You are no longer a victim of impulses. You are a master of them. This is why dopamine detox, when fused with stoic practice, creates not a temporary reset but a permanent shift. You stop treating discipline as a punishment and start seeing it as a form of athletic training. You are building yourself into someone who can withstand chaos without breaking. You are becoming a stoic athlete, strong not just in body but in mind. So let me ask you, if you had to choose one challenge for the next 24 hours, no phone, no sugar, or complete silence, what would it be? Share your choice below. Because even the strongest athlete eventually asks himself a deeper question: why am I training, and for what purpose? That answer is the compass the Stoics carried, the compass of purpose. Strength without direction is wasted. The Stoics knew that discipline alone could harden a man but not guide him. Purpose was the compass that gave meaning to their training. Seneca warned that if a sailor does not know to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. The same is true for your mind. You can detox, resist impulses, and train endurance, but unless you know where you are going, you risk becoming disciplined in emptiness. Modern neuroscience confirms this wisdom. Dopamine is not only about seeking pleasure, it is about seeking goals. The brain lights up when it moves toward a clear direction. Without purpose, dopamine is hijacked by trivial rewards. With purpose, the same dopamine becomes a powerful engine of progress. This is why people who live with a sense of mission often feel more resilient, more focused, and less tempted by shallow distractions. Their compass shields them from chaos. Marcus Aurelius began each day reminding himself that he was born to serve, not to be carried away by random pleasures. He anchored his compass in duty, in aligning with nature, in acting for the common good. That anchor gave him strength to endure the noise of empire and the weight of responsibility. When you carry a compass like this, distractions lose their force. The craving to check your phone cannot compare to the pull of a meaningful direction. Cal Newport calls this the deep life, the decision to structure your existence around what matters most. When your compass points to clarity, your energy flows naturally into focus. You no longer waste time debating whether to scroll or work because your compass reminds you what deserves your attention. You stop asking what to do and you start asking whether your action matches your North Star. To build your compass, begin with a simple sentence. One line that defines your direction. It could be, I am building a mind of discipline. It could be, I am serving through my work. It could be, I am freeing myself from distraction to live fully. The line does not need to impress others. It only needs to guide you. Every morning, read it. Every evening, ask if you live by it. Over time, this one sentence reprograms your brain to align dopamine with purpose. Seneca would tell you that a life without purpose is not only wasted but dangerous. Without a compass, your energy is stolen by whoever shouts the loudest. With a compass, your shield, sword, and training unite under one direction. Your detox stops being a struggle and becomes a strategy. You are no longer escaping distractions, you are pursuing a mission. Imagine yourself standing in the storm of modern life. Notifications scream, temptations pull, comfort whispers. But in your hand is a compass that points steady, unshaken. No matter how loud the storm, you know where to walk. This is the true power of combining dopamine detox with Stoic philosophy. It is not only about resisting, it is about advancing toward what you were made to do. So let me ask you, what would your compass sentence be? Share it below. Because once you carry a compass, along with your sword and shield, something extraordinary happens. You no longer just fight distractions, you begin to reset your brain into a new way of living. The Stoic reset. When the shield guards your mind, the sword directs your focus, the battlefield favors your strength, The athlete's training builds your endurance, and the compass points you toward purpose. Something profound happens. Your brain begins to reset. The chaos that once felt normal fades into silence. The cheap bursts of dopamine lose their grip. What once felt like an endless storm becomes clear sky. This is not just a detox, it is a rebirth of attention. The Stoics would not be surprised. Marcus Aurelius believed that the mind could always return to itself like a spring of fresh water that cannot be permanently polluted. Seneca wrote that no man is so weak that he cannot reclaim his freedom through discipline. Epictetus reminded his students that no matter how many times they strayed, the door to mastery was always open. In the same way, your reset is proof that no distraction can own you forever. Science explains this renewal as neuroplasticity. The brain is not fixed. It rewires according to how you use it. Each time you resist shallow dopamine and pursue depth, you carve a new path. Each reflection sharpens it. Each act of purpose strengthens it. Over time, your brain becomes less reactive and more resilient. The detox becomes less about escaping and more about choosing. You stop being pulled, you start leading. Imagine waking tomorrow not with dread, but with clarity. You know where your shield will rise, where your sword will strike, what battlefield you have chosen, how your training will endure, and which compass guides you. That kind of day is not an accident. It is the result of deliberately resetting your brain. The reset is not about perfection, it is about alignment. This is why the Stoic reset is different from every other detox. It is not a temporary challenge that ends after a week. It is a transformation that rewires your relationship with pleasure, discipline, and focus. The world will not stop distracting you, but you will stop being vulnerable to its tricks. You become unshakable not because the noise disappears, but because you no longer depend on it. To help you begin, I challenge you to a 7-day Stoic detox. For the next week, build your shield by removing at least one major distraction. Wield your sword by choosing one meaningful task each day. Sharpen it with morning and evening reflection. Choose your battlefield by controlling your environment. Train as the Stoic athlete with small acts of discomfort. And guide yourself with one compass sentence written daily. 7 days, one practice each to begin the reset. Now it is your turn. If you are ready, write in the comments, "I begin today," and add your city. Let us create a map of people across the world taking back their minds. Because this movement is bigger than one person. It is proof that even in the noisiest age in history, discipline, clarity, and Stoic wisdom can still prevail. Because the truth is this: dopamine does not control you. You control the meaning you give it. And once you reset, once you live with shield, sword, training, and compass, your brain becomes calm, focused, and unshakable. That is the Stoic reset. That is the life you were meant to live.